The developers of Mervils have been comparing it to Robots Rescue, a brief 3D platformer that comes with a PSVR, which serves as a pretty brilliant proof of concept that these types of games can be amazing in virtual reality. Mervils is not quite that. If you go into it with the expectations that it's going to be as good as Robots Rescue, you're going to be let down. What it is, however, is a very competent, reasonably fun 3D platformer which, VR or no VR, is a bit of a rarity these days. I'm really not sure why that genre is all but dead, but if you're a fan, you're probably going to want to play Mervils. Mervils feels like a throwback to the Nintendo 64 era in a lot of ways. Aside from the fact that the gameplay is basically a cross between platformers like Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, and the two Zelda games on that system, the graphics look like a slightly improved version of what the Nintendo 64 was able to do. So no, it's not always the best looking game, or the best sounding game, its low budget is always fairly apparent, but once you get used to its lo-fi presentation, it does have its charms. And I will say that the game controls really well. The way your character moves can sometimes look a bit wonky, but the controls always feel pretty good. Mervils is actually a VR exclusive, but I'm really not sure why. It doesn't do a whole lot that makes you think, yep, this had to be in virtual reality. Compare that with the aforementioned Robots Rescue, which actually did a lot of neat things with the way you interacted with the world that made it feel like it would have absolutely been a lesser experience on a flat screen. That's not the case here. Which isn't to say that the VR aspect of Mervils feels entirely redundant. As always, it's neat to feel like you're actually in the world, and there are a few sequences, a minecart level in particular, that are definitely enhanced by the added immersion. As for the gameplay itself, it's fine. If you played some of the other games that I mentioned, then you have a pretty good idea of what to expect. The game's at its best during its more straightforward platforming challenges. Some of the levels just have you wandering around a big open space, collecting things and doing various objectives, and these ones can get a little tiresome. There are also some spots where you have to solve a puzzle to proceed, which does tend to sap a bit of the game's momentum. I'm also not a fan of the boss battles, which go on for a really long time, but then I'm not really a fan of boss battles in general, so your mileage may vary. Still, despite having a handful of problems with it, I had fun with Mervils. I don't think it's a game that anyone's going to get too excited over, but if you're a fan of the genre and you've got a PSVR, then it's a pretty easy game to recommend.